Welcome to today's 5-minute Bible study in the book of Deuteronomy. Now today we're going to begin Deuteronomy chapter 20. You remember we are in the middle of a section in which Moses gives a great variety of instructions and regulations about how Israel is to establish their community life once they come into possession of the promised land. And we've seen there's tremendous variety in these instructions, and Moses kind of jumps around a lot. We've just finished a chapter in which he's talking about the court system you'll establish in the new land. And now suddenly he pivots and begins talking about when the nation is at war, when you're in conflict with other peoples, other nations, other groupings, and you must go to war. And he gives a lot of instructions about how they are to conduct war. He talks a bit about holy war, when you're in war against those who are utterly pagan. And a lot of different instructions are given in chapter 20, and then some of the chapters even beyond that. Just some of the instructions are very interesting. So for example, it says, if you're going to war and someone has just built a new home, then they are excused from military service for a time so that they can enjoy their new home. Or if you're going to war and someone has just planted a vineyard, then they're excused from military service for a time so that they may enjoy the vineyard they have planted. Later on, a few chapters later, he'll say, if you're going to war and someone is about to get married or has just been married, they are to be excused from military service for about a year so that they may enjoy this new married life they have entered. So a lot of the instructions are very interesting as to how war is to be conducted in the life of Israel. But I want to especially note the first paragraph of this instruction about when the nation goes to war, to remind the Israelites that it is God who fights for you, and you are to have utter confidence in the Lord, for He is the captain of your army and of your life. That's what he says. We're in chapter 20, the first few verses. Now, when you go to war against your enemies, and you see horses and chariots and an army greater than yours, do not be afraid of them. That's interesting. If you go to war and you realize that your enemy has greater resources than you do, they have more armed forces, they have a larger army, they have more horses and chariots, which are the tanks of that day, you're naturally going to be afraid. Can we prevail against them? Do not be afraid, Israel, because the Lord your God, who brought you up out of Egypt, He will be with you. When you are about to go into battle, the priest shall come forward, and he will address the army, and he shall say, Hear, Israel, today you are going into battle against our enemies. Do not be faint-hearted or afraid. Do not panic or be terrified by them, for the Lord your God is the one who goes with you to fight for you against your enemies in order to give you the victory. In other words, our confidence is not in ourselves, in our own armed military strength, or our own resources. Our confidence is in the Lord. He is the one who gives us the victory. That's the primary lesson Israel had to learn when they went into war. It is God who is on your side. He is the one who grants the victory. And when we try to apply this to our lives, we understand that oftentimes we are involved in a type of spiritual warfare. Remember, the Apostle Paul told us our battle is not against flesh and blood. It's against the principalities, the powers, the forces of darkness in high places. We're involved in a spiritual warfare against those supernatural forces of evil. Paul told us that. We might tend to be afraid of that kind of battle. But Moses' words should ring clear to us. You don't have to be afraid. The Lord is with you. The Lord is the one who will give you the victory. Be strong in the Lord, in His might and in His power. Depend entirely upon Him. And that's exactly what the Apostle Paul said in Ephesians chapter 6. When he talked about our battle against the principalities and powers, he said, be strong in the Lord. He is the one who will give us the victory. Those words reflect all the way back to Moses when he told the Israelites about how they as a nation would go to war. If you have to, God will be with you. It is God who gives the victory. We don't depend upon ourselves. We depend upon the Lord. Amen and amen. Hope you join us tomorrow for our next 5-minute Bible study in the book of Deuteronomy.